Okay, hi everyone. I'm Dorothy, and we are very pleased to welcome you to Symbiosis 2 to Susian sharing. She's going to do a demo and engrave together. So take it away, Susian.
Hi. Hi everyone. Let me just start sharing my screen first. Is it sharing?
Yes,
There we
sharing.
go. Okay. So today I'm just going to be sharing what I know about engraving. Nothing too formal because everything I'm sharing today is just what I've picked up along the way in my short career in engraving. So, hi, my name is Sue. I used to do packaging design. I do a bit of freelance calligraphy, and right now I'm a graphic designer for an events company. Yeah. What Ian am I? I'm Malaysian, but I came to Singapore in 2011 to study, and I've been here working ever since I graduated in 2015, I think. Yeah, that should be it. So a very brief summary of events on how I got into engraving. I left my job as a packaging designer in 2019. It was actually a very interesting time with them. So I decided to take my leave without having a backup job, just to take a break. I was planning to take just a 1 month break, but my friend Joyce Ko in the photo in the middle, she saw that I was unemployed and we were hanging out quite a bit, and she just asked, "Hey, you do calligraphy, do you want to engrave? It's the same." And I just said, "Okay, sure, I don't have a job at the moment, why not?" So she introduced me to this lady. I'm just going to call her Anna. That's not her real name, but she's a glass artist here in Singapore. So she makes like sculptures, trophies, and she was hiring a lot of people to do engraving under her for corporate clients. So I just jumped on the bandwagon, and it just, phew, it just went like at warp speed, I guess, because it's engraving is getting more and more popular. So yeah, that's how it got started. So today is going to be just a casual sharing. I haven't taken any formal classes on engraving. I was actually very hesitant about having this session recorded because there are some things that I might think are right that people disagree with, but I'm just going to put a disclaimer and saying that everybody does things differently. So these are just my 2 cents worth of opinions, I guess. All right. So our schedule for today is I'm going to cover what you're going to need to get started engraving. And then I will share with you guys some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. And then we'll move on to our live demo and giveaway. Ooh. I'm so much more relaxed than I was just now. What you'll need for today, you can screenshot this, or you can look at the video later that Dorothy will post on the Art of Letters YouTube. We will need an engraver, goggles or glasses. I wore my glasses because it's easier for me to see. But goggles are good to have because you don't want the glass powder to get into your eyes. We also want a mask that I forgot to include in this photograph to make sure you don't inhale any of the glass dust. A thin washi tape. I use a 5 or 3 mm washi tape to mark the baseline of the names or phrases you're going to engrave. Spare birds, I bring like 20 on site because I'm that paranoid. Colored paste for filling. For today, I'm going to use rub and buff as shown in the photo. Alcohol spray just to remove your sketches. a fine brush to brush away stuff, a microbead pillow, which mine is actually just a neck pillow that I have mutilated and stuffed into a pillowcase that my friend Lysandra actually made for me. So that's why it's so nice and the perfect shape. You also need a microfiber cloth, preferably a light colored one, like white or light gray. I'll explain more on that later. And a glove. I'm using an artist glove, so only the pinky and ring finger are covered. The other three are free to grab things. Some cotton buds, markers and pens, post-its, and tissue. Okay, moving on. So this is the page that I was so proud of because I etched out all the engravers this morning at 2. I'm only going to review these 4 because I have personally used them. I don't want to review engravers that I haven't used because I don't think that would be accurate for you guys. I started off with the Dremel Stylo Plus, and I think honestly, it's quite a good engraver. It's pretty strong and it's super portable. So the Dremel Stylo is just that pen you see in the picture and a 3-pin plug, and that's it. So it's a plug and play and go. And it also comes with an adapter to reduce or increase the size of the burrs that it can handle. So it's really quite user-friendly. The Fordham micromotor was gifted to me by Anna. And that's also, you also need a power source for that. And I was using that for, I think, 2 years. It's really good. Like, it's super convenient. It's just a little bit heavy. I think it's about, when I put it in my bag, it's about 1 kilo. And the nail drill that is the 3rd one down the line, I actually bought for my partner who started off engraving. And it's super good for $60. Like, if your hand gets really tired from holding heavy things, this one is really light. I think the whole engraver plus the pen is only 300 grams, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, and then the Ink Me This, I think it speaks for itself. In terms of price, as you can see, the bang for your buck would definitely be the nail drill. The pros would be that it's light, it's portable. You can even use it as what is that thing? Power bank. You can even use it as a power bank to charge your phone. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But the downside is there is no pause button on it. And the knob thing, it's quite a chore. It's like you're trying to make a phone call in 1990 and you have to like rotate the dial all the way to the end, and then to stop it you have to rotate it back. So that's the only downside. But overall, I think that's the most value for money. The Dremel Stylo is pretty good as well. It's got 6 speeds, which is here. You can adjust the speed here. On and off is here. So it's really like you can just switch it on and off whenever you want to use. Very user-friendly. The Fordham micromotor, I think the dial is a lot more user-friendly than this because it's a lot smaller and smoother when you rotate. The vibration is almost not there. And the only downside is that it's quite bulky and that you do need a power socket to use it. And the Ink Me This it's good. Like, I mean, it really speaks for itself. You can pause it. It can go up to 35,000 rotations per minute. It's super light. It's portable. It's pretty, all the good stuff. And it's $400 over. So that's just food for thought for you guys. It really depends on what you intend to use the engraver for. In terms of vibration, I think they're all right. The Dremel Stylo may be a little bit shakier, but very, very negligible. It's very negligible. So things to look out for when you're choosing an engraver, because there are so many out there. Just I think these 3 things are important, which are your burr width, that it has a brushless motor, and that it can go up to a minimum of 35,000 RPM, rotations per minute. Yeah. So the burr width, let me, sorry, I can't really see the slides. So this is the shank of the burr. This tapered part is the neck, and this is the head. I may or may not have just Googled this last night, but the most commonly used one in all four engravers that I mentioned previously is the 3 and 32. Oh, okay. The 3/32" shank, which is this thicker one here. There are also these 1/16" ones, which are dental burrs. You can get those on Shopee, on Taobao, on Amazon. I think you can get that as well. And then there's this thing called a reducer, which the width here is 3/32, and it helps make sure that the 1/16" ones can fit in that. So my tip for you would be to get an engraver that can fit this one, the 3/32, because it's easier to get a reducer than to jam it into something that wouldn't fit it, I suppose. Yeah. So yeah, just be aware of the width, even when you're buying burrs, because I've had friends who bought burrs and have told me, oh, it doesn't fit. Did you check? So yeah, just be a bit mindful of that. And then the brushless motor, what it is that without brushes in the motor to cause friction and slow things down, it can engrave faster, stronger, and a lot, it causes a lot less vibration. So it's less tiring on your hand. I also might have just Googled this last night because I didn't know exactly what a brushless motor was, but I wanted to be able to tell you guys what it was. And lastly would be the maximum speed. I think nowadays there are engravers or even nail drills that can go up to 40,000 RPM for, I don't know, maybe $80, $90. And I very rarely go up to 30,000 when I'm engraving, but it's always good to have it and not need it, than need it and not have it. And as you can see, that's exactly the story of my life as a hoarder. That's why I have so many things. Sorry. Okay, next. Burr sizes. Yeah, as Dorothy was asking just now, I have all these sizes and I have 100 of each of these sizes because I'm a hoarder. And that means I have 600-ish burrs now, but I've used quite a few, so maybe I have 400. And I'm already thinking of buying more. It's terrible. This obsession is terrible. So I bought the 4mm one because why not? I just bought it to try. And then I have these 2mm and 1mm, which are quite, you can tell the difference. I think from 1mm onwards, the difference in size is very minor. So which I recommend. I do not recommend buying the 4mm one or the 0.4mm one. Reason being that the 4mm one is super big and the engraving doesn't look very delicate and nice. And the 0.4mm head one is actually very similar to the 0.5. If the shape wasn't different, I couldn't tell. And in fact, because it's so small, it tends to chip the glass. Because it's no longer a rotating motion, it becomes sort of a jabbing motion. So I most commonly use the 0.8 and 0.5, but when I'm working on bigger bottles, like for later, I will be using the 1 and 0.8. Okay.
Sue, we have a question.
Oh, yes.
Do all these sizes fit the ink engraver?
Yes, Jiangmin, good question. And yes, for $496, it fits. Everything fits in the ink disc because it also comes with a reducer. So the reducer in the photo I showed 2 slides ago, that was from my Engraving engraver. Okay, good question. Thanks for asking, Jiamin. So what can be engraved? I get asked this a lot because not all surfaces can be engraved. And the easiest way for me to explain this is if it can shatter or if it can snap, it can be engraved. So if you think about plastic, your facial cleansers, all of those are plastic, but they can't shatter and they can't snap and they're soft. So you can't engrave a soft surface because there's nothing to chip away. And you're just, you're sort of just rubbing against it very quickly, so to speak. So if you get harder plastics, like for instance, this jar of walnut ink, it's quite hard, ASMR. So you can engrave that. Glass, obviously, you can shatter and snap and break. So you can engrave that as well. Okay. I have some samples of non-engravables being engraved later as well. So keep your eyes peeled. So we're moving on to some hopefully helpful tips. Oh, is it? There we go. And the first being to always tape and clean your rub and buff caps. So the reason for this is that the Amco rub and buff caps are notorious for cracking. Like you could just leave it there, not touch it, and it could crack. So what I like to do is I would wrap the cap in washi tape and put some liquid silicone or like some glue that hardens really strong on the top over here. Let me just share with you the photo. There we go. So right here, you can see I put like some liquid silicone kind of thing here, and I've wrapped it with washi tape as well. This bottle, this photo was sent to me by Joyce Ko, my friend. And it's an unopened bottle and it just cracked. It's such a waste. You'll just be left with a tube of dry sadness. So yes, always wrap your caps and clean them, because if the paste dries within the grooves of the cap and hardens, and you try to screw that in, that will cause more tension in the cap as well, and then it would crack. Jamin asked, what color do I prefer to use? So I will cover that later as well. I don't have a favorite. I do have a favorite color, it's rose gold, but I don't have a favorite color that I use on products, because the way I choose colors are based on the product. I'll cover that later. Thank you for asking, Jamin. And have a light colored cloth handy. So as I mentioned before, it would be good to have a microfiber cloth or even tissue, because when we're engraving transparent bottles, and if your, what's this called? If your microfiber pillow is black, which it should be because it looks really good, then your drawings and your guides are harder to see, because it's going to be like a black on black kind of situation. And that's not what we're here for. As you can see here, with a white colored cloth, actually it's tissue because I didn't have the microfiber cloth yet behind, it's so much easier to see the Sharpie marks on the bottle, as opposed to if I didn't have that. So that's just a fun little nugget for you guys. And I'm not sure if all of you practice this, but I always have an artist's glove on my dominant hand. So every time I'm engraving, there'll be like a halo of glass dust around the stuff. And what I would do is I would just use my pinky to, after I engrave, wipe that off. And that makes for a very good photo moment as well. It's just for convenience. So you can see my artist glove is on this hand. And as I'm engraving, I'm wiping it off with my pinky as well. The reason I'm wearing a glove on my left hand for this event is because I drew like a butterfly on my palm. And it was quite like, a posh event. So I decided to wear a glove just to cover that. Yeah. The left hand is not necessary. Actually, I don't prefer wearing one on my left hand, because I can't feel the bottle. That tiny bottle slipped through my fingers so many times. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. Mark the middle of, yes. So tip number 4 is mark the middle of your washi tape. So as I mentioned earlier, I use washi tape to as my baseline, and I found it very useful that when I do that, I have the center marked out. So when you're sticking that washi tape down, you can align it to the middle of the logo, and that just helps you gauge better, left or right, how much you need to scooch over when you're trying to center something. Another alternative would be to write the name on a post-it. I can demo that later as well, but write the name on a post-it and stick it on top of where you're going to engrave. So you have that width estimation there for you. It's a little more time consuming, but it's really good to help you gain confidence in your estimation. I almost said aggregation. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so see, I marked this was for a logo. So I marked the center here, and I even put a washi tape on top to make sure it's aligned to the bottle. And tip number 5, mark out guides to aid placement. So I'm sure you guys have gone through this before, where you're drawing something super nice, your guides, your sketch is so good, and when you look at it, it's off center or it goes off the product. So what I mean by mark out your guides and placement, my guides, is to minimally mark out the center line of the bottle. If you're doing an illustration, you can see this dot here. Let me point the arrow. There we go. This dot, that was my center line mark. And then after I did that, I divided that in half. So I would be sure to stay within here. I didn't want my oval to be like one here and one there. So yes, mark out the guides to make sure that your engraving or even your illustrations are in the prime real estate that you want it to be in. Okay. And tip number 6, use a fine brush when working on dark surfaces. So I think you guys can gather from the pictures that I do a lot of work for Dior, and their Sauvage bottle is very dark blue. So that actually scratches very easily. And I suppose the transparent bottles scratch easily as well, some of them, but they don't show up as much because it's clear. Whereas when you're engraving on a dark colored bottle and it scratches, it is so clear, it is so sad. This is one of my first engravings, I think from 2019. And you can see here all these micro scratches. It's quite sad because you're giving it to someone and it's not perfect. So my advice would be to always use like a fine brush. I have a makeup brush, and just dust that off, maybe spray some alcohol and give it a good wipe. Yeah, don't use your pinky, because I have thought like, oh, I could just wipe that off. No, it scratches. So just use a brush for that. You click pictures prior to engraving the check placement on curved surface. Okay, good question, Roja. I actually eyeball it. So she asks, do I take photos prior to engraving to check the placement and alignment on curved surfaces? And my answer is actually no. Because I'm using a micro bead pillow, I can angle the bottle such that it's facing me in like face a frontal view, and I can check from there because you're still using the same tool to gauge, which are your eyes. So I don't think it matters if it's through your phone or in real life. You just have to angle it such that it's in the position it would usually be kept in. So if it's a fragrance, maybe you put it on the table and then you stand on the edge of the table and you go like, oh, and check it out like that, you know? All right. So Engraving on plastic. This is, I think, the most commonly asked question. It is possible, but you just have to go at a very low speed on the machine as well as your engraving. So a light hand, a low speed, just treat it like a child, like you're engraving it. No, you can't engrave a child. Well, you get the picture. It's just be very gentle with engraving plastic, because the heat generated from this rapid rotation can actually melt the plastic and cause it to, I think I have a photo. Let me just double check. Yeah, there we go. See how all the lines are so jagged and melty and not the best. Yeah, so just be very gentle with that. Yeah, this tip was actually shared to me by Susian. She's another engraver, and she was so nice. She just walked past my booth, looked at it, and went, "Use a slower speed," and she left. It was such a strange interaction, but she's really very friendly. You can take a screenshot of this if you'd like as well. These are the speeds I normally use for engraving on these various materials. Glass and metal, I personally use 15,000 to 20,000 RPM. A lot of engravers out there swear by 35,000, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me. The speed kind of freaks me out. I mean, if I'm feeling adventurous, I'd go up to 25,000. But I think 35,000 is, I don't know, it's just scary for me. You can. My motto is can, but it's just, yeah, I prefer to stick to this. For plastic, try not to go over 5,000, because that's when I feel it gets a little too much for the surface. And for mirrors, I usually go a bit slower, just because I need a little more control. Because for mirrors, you have that kind of double image thing happening when you're writing on the surface, and it just gives me motion sickness. So I go slower, I engrave slower. And yeah, how is glass and mirror different? Yes, the reflection throws me off a bit, but a trick to overcome that is to actually tilt the mirror so that it's facing you face first, because the double image that you see is caused by the angle of which you view it at. So if you look at it face front on, you will only see that the image that you engrave on. I'll show you later as well. I have a mirror surface next to me. So, haha, tips on design. Exciting. It looks exciting, but it's literally only 3 tips. Okay, the first one is placement and size. So I get asked a lot how I usually choose where to engrave. There we go, English. And my answer to that is where I think it can elevate the design the most, and where is the easiest for the recipient to see. So for example, if you've got a slim bottle and the logo is horizontal, I don't think engraving it vertical this way, so turning it sideways and engraving it that way, would be nice, because then you have to read left to right for the logo, and then you have to twist the bottle to the side to read the name. So I have a photo, don't worry. Yeah, so this was engraved by my partner. So amazing, right? No prior experience in calligraphy, but the placement I'm not happy with. So you see the logo is this way, but the name goes this way. So I personally try to avoid that, because when the bottle is standing upright, your name is like 90 degrees and just gives me whiplash. And this is a smaller miniature that I did. It's, I think, half the size of this, and I managed to squeeze the name across the body. So it's doable. It's doable. Mo, would adding water help? Adding water to what? Could you please elaborate? Okay, here's another example. So placement, play with the logo even. So if your logo is here, don't be confined just to this space to engrave. You have the sides, you even have the top if you're feeling adventurous, and even the back actually. So you get a nice kind of muted look. I have an example later as well. Just play around, you know, you want to frame the logo or frame the name, because what I feel engraving needs to do is to elevate the value of the product. So I wouldn't engrave just for the sake of it. Yeah. A theme. A theme. So when I'm coming up with the design, I usually either smell the fragrance or look at what kind of what speaks to me from the product. For example, if I'm engraving a wine glass, I'm not going to engrave a Hello Kitty on it. You know, maybe some vines, maybe some grapes, something that ties back to the purpose of this product, or maybe some barrels or where the wine is from. For example, Miss Dior, it's a, you know, romantic scent, blah, 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 France, this and that. So I did the Eiffel Tower at the back and some scenery because I wanted it to be like a background, kind of a romantic look to it. And just to give it a little more of a oomph as a product. You know, I wouldn't engrave baguettes or croissants because that's more of a bakery vibe. Unless the client wants, then don't have a choice. The client is always right. We can advise against it, but some just want what they want, you know. Sorry, let me just answer most question when engraving. When engraving, I don't think adding water might help. I might be wrong, but I would assume when I'm engraving, the water will splash back at me, and maybe with it some glass shards. So I might avoid that. I've seen other engravers use burr lube, which is meant to lubricate your burrs, make it easier to engrave, and stuff like that. But I don't use it because I don't think it's necessary. But if that's what you're concerned about, you can try that out. Any more questions? Not at the moment. Okay. So color. Yeah, as I think Jiamin asked just now, how do I choose, what's my favorite color? And I don't really have one. I usually choose the color that suits the product the best. For example, if the logo has maybe gold embellishments, I choose a gold. If it has silver heart sets, I choose silver. And sometimes I mix both, like in this photo. I haven't posted this anywhere, so this is a Symbiosis exclusive. The main image is in gold because the bottle is gold. And I used silver to kind of play up the sparkles in the back. Yeah, but the primary focus is still the gold because that's just how it is. Yeah. Leslie asked, what if the name is too long for horizontal placement, let's say on a tall bottle? Honestly, that's where we have to step in and tell them, hey, these are the limitations you have. Because I have been asked to engrave legitimate love messages on small fragrances. And I'll just tell them, sure, but you know, they're going to use this for years and feelings will change. You know, engraving won't. And you can tell them long names might not fit. You can suggest to them, maybe you want an initial instead. You know, if it's beyond your capability to do, don't feel that you have to do it. You know, if it's really too long, you can't, right? Yeah. And Jiamin asked, do I find the rub and buff hard to rub off? Yes, I'm not gonna lie, it is, but I'll show you a trick later that I usually do because tissue is not going to do it. The next two slides are my evolution of engraving. So a trip down memory lane from when I first started. These are the only roses I knew how to do. And Joyce Cole, my friend, she taught me to draw a number 8 and just start adding petals around from there. So if you look really closely, you can still see the number 8 in the middle. And I kept doing this for as long as I can remember. This is me using the Dremel. I really did use it. And my bees from last time, which are not great. So when I first started engraving, I just wanted to showcase everything I knew. I could flourish, I could do this, I could do that. But, you know, sometimes you need to decide when to do big designs and when to do small ones, because this is really not great. It's not good placement, it's too cramped, you can't really see the flourishing properly, and yeah, less is more sometimes. And fast forward to now, these are some of my engravings now. I started really playing with layout when they gave me these metal flasks to engrave, and I was so sick of doing just the 8 flowers. So what I did here was I stuck washi tape and made a bar, and then I just filled that in with flowers. And this was like, I think I took inspiration from a tattoo on Pinterest. And this is a good example of what I meant by themes. So I wanted to do like a astrology, kind of astronomy, star thingy vibe. So I did this set of 5, which all have a star theme, and I used gold instead of silver, even though this is silver, because I felt that gold would convey the design better. This is silver because the handle is silver. This moon is a crowd favorite, and this is playing with the frame. So I'm using my engraving to propel the brand forward. I'm not taking away from the attention of the brand, just trying to elevate it. And this one I went a bit crazy, just have no explanation. I was just bored. So that's what happened. Yeah, and that's it. I hope that was slightly helpful. So if you are engraving, grab your mask, grab your engravers. Maybe Dorothy, now we could do that roulette thing. Let me stop sharing for a minute.
I have to collect all the names first.
Sure, no worries.
Yeah,
I
you
could
go
do
ahead
that
with the
one.
demo. I will, yeah. Let me just collect the names. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. Thank you so much for helping. So let me just prepare my visualizer. Okay, I guess I won't know how to until this. Okay. This one. Okay, can you guys see the visualizer?
Yes, we can.
Okay, that's great. So I suppose let's start first with engraving a simple name. There
We have a few questions.
Oh, yes. How to cover the huge surface on the second last photo on the bottom row. Oh, okay. So I just colored it in with a bigger burr. So I used the 2mm one, and I just slowly and gently colored it in to engrave it off. But Julia from Russia, she recommended me to use the flame shaped burr, which is actually, give me a minute, let me go. I think I have it, I'm sure I have it. Oh. She recommended me to use this one here, and engrave with that. And I haven't tried it yet, but if you're trying, maybe you can try that. So, but I just used a normal big burr and shaded it in. And how did I add the color? Legitimately, I just packed on the rub and buff and rubbed it on with a Q-tip. How many minutes do I allocate to each engraving? If it's just a name, maybe less than a minute. But if it's a big image, I engrave quite fast. So I would usually tell the customer 20 minutes or 25 minutes. But if you need more time, always estimate for more because they will come back 5 minutes early and be like, hey, how come so long, you know? How do I add the color? I'll show you later, Susan. How do you keep your hand firm when engraving? So that's why a brushless motor is so important because you don't really feel the vibration. Yeah, I don't feel it when I engrave, to be honest, but I do have a tight grip on things. So maybe a tighter grip would help as well. Hey, I reckon, of course you do. Yes, I do change the burrs when I'm working, depending on the size. Okay, so let me just start with this product. Let me know if it's not clear, okay, guys? You can just unmute and say, hey, anytime. So I'm gonna take my tape that I have already marked the middle of, and I've used it a lot. So what I usually do is estimate the middle of the bottle. You can see the Joe Malone logo. And I would, yeah, right there. Or maybe a bit lower. Like here, yep. And that's it. That's a really quick way to mark out your baseline. Let me try to zoom in for you guys. Oh, ooh, wow. Okay, good. Nice. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to switch on the engraver so you guys can hear it before I'm engraving, and I'll leave it on for this product because it's the quietest. Okay, so if you guys find it too irritating, please feel free to turn down the volume on your iPad or your computer just for this product. The rest I will mute them. Okay, so my my engraver is at 15,000 RPM at the moment. I don't know if you can hear it. It's quite soft. I'm putting it right next to my AirPods. And I'm going to start engraving now. Okay, I'm going to engrave Symbiosis. So how I estimate it is really SYMBIOSIS. So I would end around here. Maybe I'll start a bit further off. Okay. Okay, so for descenders, I would just leave those out first and add them in later. I can already tell that I'm off center. And I'll show you how to fix that later. Okay, pardon this. This is really not my best, but I'll just add in that descender. And then I will show you how off center it is, guys. Sorry. But you get the gist. And so when this happens, especially if I'm at an event, what I would do is, is this clearer for you? What I would do is I would add little leaves, to make it look intentional. Great. So you see how I just use my pinky to wipe off the excess? And look, it looks so intentional now. That's great. Just put a dot here. Maybe, yep. Yep, I think that looks fine. Right? Oh, we did it. So now I'm going to add the rub and buff. I think somebody asked just now. I will be using rose gold because it's easier for you guys to see on screen. But for this product, I would usually either use gold to match this or silver to match the cap. Okay, sorry, let me just light up my life a bit more and turn down the exposure. Oops, what's happening? Oh, what if I did this? Okay, there we go. Okay, nice. So I would grab a bit of rub and buff, and I use just a little bit. A lot of people tend to spam it on, and that's why it's so hard to remove. So what you have to do is just gently rub it in. Be careful not to touch the logo, and keep pushing all that product around. Waste not, want not. And then you see when you keep rubbing, it comes right off. And if it's too saturated, just flip the Q-tip over and use that. Perfect. See? And if there's a bit left, all you have to do is spray a bit of alcohol on tissue and just rub that right off. Okay? Let's see how quick and fast that was. I will just continue first, and if there are any more questions, I will answer them later. Okay? Is the color ever or base of acrylic? I'm not sure. I just use rub and buff. It's flammable though, and it's not food safe. So if you're doing glasses, like to drink, not to wear on your face, try not to use rub and buff, because not only is it not food safe, after a bit of washing, it'll turn green. Yeah, because it oxidizes and it's just really gross. Okay.
So you have two previous questions. One by Nari, do you change the burrs when you're working? And the second one, when do you change the burrs? Usually by Ling. And Oja's asking, like, when do you know when a burr is dead?
Okay. So honestly, you know it's dead when it starts to skip. So I'm just going to show you what I mean by that. So when you're engraving, you see when I pull down, it's a constant motion. But if the burr is dead and if it's blunt, what's going to happen is it's going to oop, 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 you know? And that's when you know you have to change, because it's not rough enough to scratch the surface of the glass already. I hope that answers the question. You can see the differences in the lines here. Yep. Okay. Good question. Thank you. Does wiping it off make it easier? So sometimes for rub and buff, it tends to dry really quickly. So if you're rubbing, especially with a surface like tissue that's soft, you don't get the friction and heat needed to reactivate it. So let me see if I can actually do an example for you guys, but let me try to answer any more questions. If I miss any, please just call me out on it. Okay. So I'm just gonna put this here, this bit here, one more. So when rub and buff dries, it dries really hard, and it's the hardest thing to rub off. That's why I always try to work fast. I'll just leave that to dry and then address it later. And how we reactivate it is actually to introduce more rub and buff, more fresh, wet rub and buff, or to rub it and buff it until it's a bit warm, and that will reactivate the product so that it's easier for you to remove it. See, I'm cleaning because I know if I don't do it now, I will forget. And then I will be sad. Okay, no problem.
That's a related question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a related question someone was asking was, what happens when it doesn't seem to adhere well? Apparently the gold doesn't adhere as easily.
Mm-hmm. Are you talking about rub and buff, or?
Yes, the question was for rub and buff.
Okay, so if that's the case, it means the rub and buff, the fluid has risen to the top. It's separated from the paste. So I think I had a question about this in my Instagram before as well. So what you can do is you can gently push the tube, like front and back, to reintroduce the fluid to the paste inside, or you can try storing it upside down, or you can even try just removing the fluid. See, it should be this kind of consistency where it's a paste, And if I tilt it, it's not watery at all. See? So if it is watery, it's going to be a lot harder to adhere, and it's just going to be super messy. So just try to purge the water from your tube. More later, maybe you can check the video. I actually laid them all out so you can reference that, because there are quite a few colors by Rub and Buff, but the 3 I displayed in the photo are the ones that I usually use. The burr size I was using just now was 0.8. Okay. Can you use the buffing wheels in the forum to remove dried rub and buff, or does it dull your engraving? I haven't tried it, to be honest, and I think it's a lot of work. So if it really doesn't come off, just spray a bit of alcohol on the tissue and give it a gentle rub. Don't press it in, because that will remove the color from your engraving as well. Just keep on gently rubbing it, and that will come out. You can squeeze out everything. No. So Rub and Buff is notorious also for hardening really quick. So I put it in a leak-proof jar and it's still hardened. So honestly, I wouldn't recommend taking it out of the tube as well. Leslie, good question though. Yeah. Okay, so I'll let this dry a bit more. So I'm going to, let me check on the time. Sorry. What time is it, guys? Oh, we've got 8 minutes. Oh my. Dorothy, do we have the
Yeah, I have. I'm ready.
Oh, great. Okay. So
the
I'm
wheel.
just going to stop sharing for a while so Dorothy can share her wheel if she wants to.
I will share the wheel. Here it is. Dun, dun, dun. You'll see the wheel? Yes, right?
Not yet. It's still loading.
Yeah, it's still
it's not sharing.
It's still loading.
It's like Bernice just now, where it's just Dorothy and Chu has started sharing screen.
Because it's
Or maybe if everybody trusts Dorothy, which they should, she could just roll it and let us know. Oh, did she drop off? Dorothy, are you
A screen dropped off, I think, that one.
Okay, no worries. Then I'll just answer some questions. Would I recommend food safe colors? Okay, so for drinking glasses, I really would not recommend putting any color of sorts in it, because it is going to be ingested, and there are no really food safe fillers out there that I know of. So it would be best for you to just keep it blank for now. Are there any questions that I missed out?
Sorry, Judith, can make me co-host this. Otherwise, I cannot share.
Sorry, Dorothy, you're still listed as host on my end.
Yeah.
Or do you have another?
Go. No, I can see the screen.
Oh, yes.
Nice. Thanks for doing this, Dorothy. Oh, it's spinning. It's stopping. Oh, wow. Congrats, Jamin.
Congrats.
Wow, no way. So cool. That's so good. Okay, let me share screen again. Visualize the screen. Sorry guys, we might overrun maybe 5 to 10 minutes. If you guys have to go, please don't feel obligated to stay. So sorry, taking longer than I expected. Okay, so what you have won is a cup. It's a thermal cup. that I'm going to show you guys how to engrave because it's a dark surface and I think that's helpful for you guys. So what I did was I jammed the clean sheet into it because it would be a bit too noisy without. Okay, so for larger surfaces like this, I would usually just use a gold or white marker. This is the Schneider Painted, but honestly, anything that can mark on the surface will do. Sharpies are fine. Try not to use acrylic markers because those are really hard to wipe off. So I'm just going to freehand this for you guys to see. Let me know if it's too zoomed in. I think it is. There we go. Okay. So for flourishes, so I'm just trying to add on, see where I can. So when I'm engraving, I prefer for the rotation to be, let's see, forward, backwards, towards me. Okay, so it rotates inwards so that when I'm pulling down, it makes it easier. So I think this is because I'm used to calligraphy and the downstrokes are hard and the upstrokes are light and stuff like that. So I have the rotation towards me. If you can find an engraver that you can change the direction of the engraving, that would be great as well. It's not a must, but I find it easier to pull down because I'm having it towards me. If you prefer to push up, then maybe rotating the other way would be best for you. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so for this, I'm going to be using a 1 mm burr. But first, I have here because I really want to do it. Sorry. So a 1 mm, no, this 1 mm. This might be 2 mm, but I'm using the bigger burr so you guys can see how it's used. And I'm going to mute myself because I'm pretty sure this is going to be, actually, let me try.
So,
Okay,
a question. You have a question on, somebody just wants to see the marker you're using.
Oh yeah, I'm using a Schneider Painted. And yeah, it rubs off pretty easily. I hope that answers your question, Leslie. I'll leave it here if you want to take a screenshot. Okay, and then, so I'm going to start engraving. If it's too noisy, Judith, please just yell at me to remove it. Ooh, ooh. Okay, I'm going to mute because I feel that it's noisy. Sorry, guys. How do I mute myself? Okay, there we go. Okay, so for this, for flourishes, I understand that it would be hard to do that. So what I've done here is I stopped where my leaves are going to come out from, so that even if I join it, it wouldn't look that obvious. So yeah. And as you can see, I went off a bit, but that's fine. I'll just fix that later. Okay. I like to pull towards me. So if you notice, I keep turning the bottle so that I'm pulling towards myself. And I just find that a lot easier. Okay, so I feel that this is a little bit lopsided. So I'm going to add the leaves here and maybe have some from here as well. Oh, it's a bit unclear. Sorry, guys. Hope it's clearer later. I forgot to dot the I. Okay, so that was that. It was pretty quick. I think it was 2 minutes, maybe 3. And just use the pinky action and rub that all off. So you see how that just gets rid of the dust so nicely? And it's all here, so you just keep it in your hand and keep. No, you can dust it off somewhere or wash the glove when you get home. And yeah, to get rid of all this ink, just get your handy dandy alcohol spray, give that a spritz, then grab a piece of tissue and rub that off. Yep. There we go. There you go, Jiamin. I hope that was helpful to you guys. As you can see just now, we have to learn how to fix things on the go because I kind of didn't do the full circle. To the untrained eye, perhaps that wouldn't have been so obvious, but I didn't like it. And I'm sure Jiamin's eyes are super trained. So I fixed that with countering, having a leaf there, adding a star here to fill up the gap, and also stars here and here to balance it off, and then having stuff here as well. Yeah, so it's as you can see, that didn't take very long. I think, yeah,
I have a couple more questions, Sue.
Oh, sure. Yep.
One of them is, do you actually care about thicker downward strokes? Or just
personally,
monoline?
Personally, I try to keep it at monoline because I'm usually working at very small scale. Yep. But I have done pieces where I do focus on the downward shades, and if you guys want to do that, that's fine. You just have to change to a smaller burr and do it the and lesser way where you shade it in manually at the downstroke. Yeah, just use a smaller burr so you don't over engrave.
Yeah. Another question is, have you had clients tell you that they didn't like the design after it's done? Do you need to give any disclaimer before you do the actual engraving, especially during live events?
I think so far I have not, thank goodness. I have spelled names wrongly before, once in my whole career. And I just fixed it. Like, so I covered that up with some engraving in the front, and then I would engrave their name again on the side, really big and really nice to compensate for my mistake. Yeah. So I think when people are engraving something, they just want something nice, because it's an additional service. It's to elevate their product, customize it. So I have had people ask me for Hello Kitty riding a unicorn to be engraved on their bottle. I'm not kidding you at all, and I have done it. I just didn't put in the slide because I don't like it. So you have customers who have questionable taste, and to you it might not look nice, but if that's what they want, and if you've advised them, then you don't have a choice. Just they're the client, But yeah, don't be disheartened. Some people just have different tastes, and that's fine. So this rub and buff, as you can see, has totally dried. It's coming off in chunks, right? So this is really hard to buff off, right? Oh, it's getting worse. Okay. So a really handy trick is to just dab a little more, just very little bit of rub and buff to kind of reactivate its friends, and just rub that on. And you see that just comes right off. That's just a trick. So I'll just put on more product and then rub that off. I don't know why it works. It just works. It's the mysteries of science, I guess. Yep. So I hope that answers your question. I'm sorry, I don't really remember who asked it. And if you're afraid of getting the rub and buff on the label, just grab a washi tape. Make sure it's not too sticky, like maybe do this a couple of times, and stick it over so you don't accidentally rub, so you don't accidentally rub some rub and buff onto the logo. Okay, pro tip.
Okay.
So
more questions?
Okay, let me just stop this visualizer because I don't think we have time to do the image. Maybe I'll do that on an Instagram live, but I'll stop sharing so we can talk face to each face.
Okay, so how do you manage engraving different?
Yes.
How do you manage engraving queuing products with different requests, like names and drawings?
Sorry, Dorothy, I can't hear you, but I see the question. How do you manage engraving queuing products with different requests, name, drawing? Okay, so great question, Imelda. I understand this is a very big concern for people who do live events. So if you have like a snaking queue, maybe you have 10 products in mind, then maybe you should, or rather you should convey to the staff, hey, because we have 10, the next order that's coming in will have to wait 45 minutes to an hour. And if not, just you can come back tomorrow to pick it up or something. And if they are asking for a lot of drawings, you have to tell them too that okay, I hear your request and I can do it for you, but you have to wait maybe 2 hours because we have a queue of people who just want their names, and it's not fair to them to have to wait like 2 hours just for that. I will get to it as fairly as I can, but just convey to them. Usually they're very understanding. If not, you can always suggest for them to come back to the store another day to pick it up, or suggest something easier to do, like maybe some stars, some flowers, something they're comfortable with. Definitely not a Hello Kitty riding a unicorn, that's for sure. Yeah, let's see.
Another question is, how long did it take for you to learn to engrave, to start offering it as your work?
Sorry, Dorothy, I'm having trouble hearing you. Could you? Could you repeat the question?
The next question, how long did it take for you to learn engraving, to start offering it as your work?
So if you recall my timeline of events, I just started offering it. I wasn't employed at the moment. I've done calligraphy for a while, and I thought the skills were transferable. So I just went for it. There was an event opening, and I just before going for the event, I tried engraving at home. My bottles are all engraved fully, my glass bottles, and I think somebody asked how I practice as well. And actually practicing monoline calligraphy really helps, because all you need is to understand the letter forms and have an eye for design. And I think calligraphy is a very transferable skill. Yeah, sorry we went over the hour. If you guys have to leave, please feel free. I'm okay with staying, so go ahead. Can stay and keep asking questions. Thank you, Mo. That means a lot. When they ask you to do interesting drawings, do they provide? Let me tell you, baby Zumanari, they come in with the image on their phone and they say, I want exactly this on my bottle. And it just happens to be a Hello Kitty riding a unicorn. And it's just so questionable. I'll post it tonight on my stories just for you guys, okay? You can, I'm not kidding. I really am not kidding. You're welcome, Susian.
Have you ever had how do you know what speed to use?
Honestly, for glass, anything above 15,000 is enough to etch the surface. You know, if you want to go higher, if you need more power and you don't want to press down as hard, I suppose you can go higher. But I've got quite a heavy hand and I need that control. So I would go lower and press slightly harder, not a lot. Kind of like making a downstroke with a Mikoji nib, that kind of force. Yeah. I think you can go 35,000 if you want for glass, no problem. Just make sure you're not going higher than 5,000 for plastic. Hope that was helpful.
I think it also depends on the quality of the material you're engraving on. Because if it's like very fine crystal, or it's very, it's glass with a lot of bubbles, that would determine, that will affect the speed at which you want to engrave too, right?
Yeah, so the density of the glass also plays a part. That's why I don't go over 15,000, because if you go at a lower speed on soft glass, that's fine. You're in a good place. If you go a lower speed on a harder glass, you're still fine. You're still in a good place. But if you go at 35,000 on a super like soft glass, maybe it's a cheap glass that they mixed a lot of other, I don't know, sand, what is glass made of, into it, and it's not as structurally strong, you might crack the glass, or you might engrave too deep, and then you'll have uneven engraving. So those are just some precautions that I take. So I start low. If I feel that it's a hard, good quality glass, I go a bit higher. I definitely don't go 35,000 for wine glasses, because I'm a chicken. I don't want to shatter it. How long do you take to engrave the details of the flower? Does the customer wait? Yeah, Jiamin, they do wait sometimes. They actually sometimes even shove a phone in front of my face. So when I'm engraving, I can't see the bottle. I'm just seeing their phone recording my bottle, and I just pray for the best. No, but in all honesty, I think if you are used to drawing, if you're used to calligraphy, you have it in you to be able to just honestly wing it. So if, especially flowers are organic things, right? So it doesn't matter if you go or like it's like a tear in the flower, you know. It adds on to it. It builds character. Yeah. How long does it take me? I don't know. If it's an intricate piece, maybe 30 to 45 minutes if I'm taking my time. If I'm rushing, I would do a design that looks intricate, but it's actually not. So a lot of swirls, a lot of stars, a lot of fillers. Yeah. Unsafe to engrave on champagne bottles. Yes, it is true. And yes, I have engraved on champagne bottles because they were offering me a lot of money to do that. So I do convey to them, Leslie, you have to tell them that there are these risks involved. And if you're not personally comfortable taking these risks, then don't take this order or offer to use markers on it. But if you're not comfortable engraving on a champagne bottle, don't do it. So the only reason I accepted the job, jokes aside, money aside, is because she told me another engraver had done it on this 1 liter champagne bottle multiple times and it has never exploded. So I deduced that maybe the bigger the bottle, the less significant the irritation to it is. But I have seen that video where the champagne bottle explodes, so I would recommend you not to take it up if it's anything less than a liter. Yeah, it's just not worth it to risk your hands for that. I hope that helps. Oh, you can try glass painting as well if they don't want paint markers. Just paint some flowers or something. Look forward to how. Yes, Leslie, I'll paint that. I'll post that later, right after this. My phone is in the other room. You're welcome.
Do the people that you engrave for your clients, do they give you like spare bottles in case there are mistakes?
Never. I'm going to be real. Never. They hardly give you enough to do as it is. And yeah, I'm going to be real. Some clients are very nice. They'd be like, oh, it's okay, you know, take your time. But some are very demanding. And it's really up to you as the artist to either accept this client or reject them, because I mean, they don't have to come to you. And if they're really hard up, like, oh, I'm just paying $30 for this, but I want it now. I want that Hello Kitty riding the unicorn. I want this. And if you're not comfortable doing that, then don't, you know. I think during the whole Symbiosis, I really learned that some art is for yourself, you know. It depends on what you want to do, how you want to do it. And if that client is asking you to do something you're not comfortable doing, then don't do it, or do it and don't post it, or do it and then forget about it, and just let it slide. But try not to hold on too tightly to that, oh, this person like me had to do the Hello Kitty and the unicorn. Just let it go. Like, to me, it's just a joke. I'm not angry that they asked me to do it. I hope that helps. Yeah, what other glass bottle can't be engraved other than champagne? Any effervescent things. So sparkling water, sparkling wine, anything bubbly or anything that makes you burp, you can't engrave. Also, like metal cups like this, some of them are coated with a rubbery layer, sort of silicone, but that is not engravable. Even though the inside is metal, the outside coating is not. So you will not be able to engrave that, and it will end up looking like that V on the pink bottle that I showed you in the presentation. Okay, so just make sure to give it a light tap and listen up for that hard, solid sound that you want to hear. Are there any more questions? Matte surfaces, do you use something to color it or leave it as it is? So matte surfaces, you can't add rub and buff or color because it's porous and it's uneven. So the rub and buff will get into it and it will just stain the product like a clump. So for matte surfaces, I would tell the people either no, it cannot be engraved, or yes, I can engrave it, but I can't add color. And generally, they're very understanding. So just make sure you know your stuff and you can convey it to them beforehand. Commission jobs are really stressful. Yes, Leslie. I missed the earlier part of this game. Oh, the replay will be on the Art of Letters YouTube. Maybe tonight or tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. Dorothy needs to sleep. Tomorrow, you can check it out tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you for coming, Shraddha. Thank you. If there are no questions, Thanks, Oja. Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, Sue. It was a great presentation. So much information, my goodness. Yeah. 3 years worth of
Wonderful,
Sue.
engraving information.
Thank you. Thank you.
You did
Actually,
great.
Just
it
sharing
was,
your progress.
thank you. It's actually 2 years because 2020 there were no events at all. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. It's a fun journey. If any of you have any questions, you can always just drop me a DM. I'm quite friendly. I would like to think. You can just ask me. I'm okay with sharing. You're welcome, Leslie. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Sylvie.
Good night, Nari. Thank you, everyone. Okay, I'm
Thank you
going to
so
stop
much.
the recording.
Oh,